This is the Healthy Business Podcast, the show for ambitious business owners who want to grow and scale in a healthy way. I'm Sarah Cook, and I'll be sharing with you tips, inspiration, and proven methods from leading business experts, entrepreneurs, and health and wellness professionals to help you grow your business with more income and having more impact, but in a way that works for you. Because when you have clarity and strategy, you can achieve the results you want. So today we have the lovely Rebecca Robertson joining us on the Healthy Business Podcast. Rebecca is a wealth strategist, and I'm going to get her to talk a little bit more about what that means. But as we all know, having regular cash flow, having money in our businesses is so important, not just from a healthy foundations perspective, but also so that we can continue to help people continue to grow ourselves. So Rebecca, thank you so much for joining me today.
Oh, thanks for having me. I love coming to talk about money and wealth, and I think for a lot of your audience that are in the health and well-being space, what they can sometimes hear when we talk about money and wealth is this sort of disconnect from their passion. So they're passionate about helping and nurturing, and they may be in therapies where they're sort of talking about overcoming emotional mindset issues, or possibly even therapist sort of side of things where they're spending time emotionally connecting with people and helping people, or massagers and holistic therapies, and they're doing that because they love to help people. And then when you add money to the equation, that's not why they started their business.
Absolutely.
That's not why they did what they did. And so those that are listening, I just straight away, if you're feeling that way, I just want you to listen a little bit more and just hear a little bit more, and not be triggered by some of these conversations in a way that's going to make you feel that's not for me. Because I hear this quite a lot when I speak to for example, that's not mediators, people that are very woo-woo, and they are talking mediums, they're talking to spirits, or they're doing tarot cards, that kind of thing. So in that industry, which is like a little shift away from therapists and natural health, they would say you can't use your gifts as a way of charging money. And I speak to quite a few very high level spiritual people that deliver, pricey programs on how they take their energy and their spirit side of their abundance and their mindset and their gifts and their skills, and they teach others how to do it, and they get paid for that. It's a transaction, and it's exactly the same with whether you're speaking to somebody and helping them with their mindset, or you're providing a service of some kind around a therapy, for example. It's still a transaction where you're helping them, and you love doing it, but you still should be paid for it, regardless of where that's coming from, whether that's a gift from God or however you want to put it, or if it's a gift in terms of you have a skill set that you've trained years to do. There's still a transaction in place, and therefore it's just deeming what the price or the level of what that particular transaction should be charged at. So I love talking to those two industries quite a lot, because I feel that there's a lot of women in there, and I'm all about empowering women with their finances. I've been doing that for 10 years. That's all I've done. That's all I've banged on about for 10 years. 10 years ago, people weren't really talking about this kind of thing, and I was the weird one. And now there's more women talking about it, which is great, because that means there's more of an impact, which is what I'm all about. And I truly believe that the more empowered women with their finances, the more we can actually change society, that we can grow more wealth, the wealth gap will reduce, and we can actually pass on more wealth generationally. And the more financially educated we get in terms of that wealth process, how to make it, how to manage it, and how to multiply it, the more that we can reduce that gap and have a more even society. So I feel that business owners and women in business particularly, they have an amazing opportunity with their money to create that legacy for themselves and their future. So you have to sort of take the piece, or the emotional piece around what I charge and how I charge for it out of the equation, and look at it much, much, much bigger than that.
I love that. And it's, it's something that I talk a lot about, in the sense of, in order to help people, you have to have that cash flowing through your business, because otherwise you don't have a business to run. But it's one of the things that I think health and wellness business owners struggle with the most, is actually charging for their services, or charging the right value for their services, because most people come into this industry because they want to help people, whatever niche it's in within that health and wellness space, and charging the right value. And I think also that sort of mindset as well of, knowing what you're worth, because it's not a normal transaction. You're actually making real changes to people's lives. And I think that's the kind of big part, is that because of, when you shift that mindset into helping people and recommending actually what the next course of action, it's not necessarily about that, actual physical transaction of a bit of money. But I think I love what you were just saying around the kind of sort of manage and then multiply. It's not, for most people when they go into business, it's about moving from one month to the next month. For me, having that sustainable business, looking slightly more to the longer term, and actually making your money work harder for you. So whatever is coming into the business, you're not hustling for it, and you're not constantly kind of having whatever's going in is going straight out again. It's using that pot of money that you can actually use to work harder for you, can't you?
Yeah, definitely. And for me, it's about having an aligned life. And I know you talk a lot about this, even probably more than what I do. For me, it's like the other side of the triangle. There's 3 points, and you're on one side and I'm on the other, which is basically that your business is a catalyst of your personal life and what you want your life to look like, and your finances are a reflect of that. So it's not a two-way, like a square, if you like, there's 2 sides to it. It's a triangle with 3 points, and if you're not aligned, if your personal finances and your business finances aren't aligned to your core vision of what you want for your life, and therefore it reflects in your lifestyle and it reflects in your business, then the alignment starts to be mismatched. And what do I mean by that? So where I see that happening is, an example would be, you see somebody who is offering a great service, they're doing a great job, they might work in health and well-being, and they're teaching people how to get a six-pack. I don't know, that's the first thing that come into my head. But then themselves have never had a six-pack, or they're healthy, but they haven't got a six-pack. They've got some good muscles going on, and this is possibly a silly example, because most people I know that are in fitness are like they're really, really fit, right? But there's things that are underlying that you don't see. So might be they say you shouldn't have sugar, but they all have as a Mars bar and a cup of tea twice a day, kind of thing. So that you wouldn't ever necessarily see that kind of stuff. Because we don't always practice what we preach all the time. So we do that in business quite a lot, where we're talking about where we should be efficient and we should be doing certain things, but we don't necessarily do it ourselves. And so when we're talking about our finances, the way that we do that is that we're saying, okay, I want to have, let's try and think of an example. I want to go on holiday, if you can go on holiday in the UK, let's keep it to the UK, in 6 months' time, but I can't afford it. But what you're doing with your finances is that you're spending each month, which is mismatched to your values. So what does that look like? So for you, Sarah, that would be eating healthily, it'd be going, maybe going to a gym session or yoga and all that kind of thing. For me, it would be my horses and being outside in the fresh air and that kind of stuff. So that's how we spend our money, and they're our core values. But let's just say you don't spend it on that. You spend it on the kids, you spend it on takeaways, you spend it on days out, taking the kids out for the day, which is all popcorn, or it's all fizzy drinks or ice creams, or that kind of stuff. And then you get to the end of the month and you feel like you've done some nice things, but you haven't been fit, you haven't done what you need to do, you haven't saved for that holiday. And then you get to the end of the month and you feel like you're in a place of lack of, because you haven't been spending aligned to your values. So that's what I see people do, not only in their spending personally, I see them doing it in their business, and I see it in how they operate in their business, where actually what they really want in life is not aligned to how they're acting and they're seeing things through in their business. So by being more aligned with your finances, it means that you build the consistency, and you build a more aligned life where you feel like you're more abundant, and with more abundance comes more into your world. So coming straight away from a lack of around charging, for example, that doesn't allow you to live within the alignment of where you want to spend and how you want to live your life, is where I start to see people just not empowered with their money, really.
So interesting. It's such a, I think mindset is a huge part of it, isn't it? But also, I suppose having those goals, for want of a better word, in the sense of, if you do want to go on holiday, if you're planning to buy a bigger house or a new car or something, managing your spend according to that. Not in a kind of, it doesn't have to be so prescriptive in things, you can still have fun, you can still have those days out and enjoy things, but actually spending in a way that, as you say, is aligned to actually what you're wanting to achieve. So knowing what those values are, I think is really important.
Yeah, definitely. And it's a subject I find fascinating because we're just all very busy in our businesses, right? We're busy, whether it's getting on YouTube or launching a podcast like, I've done, and creating a planner and a free Facebook group. And should I, what should I do with my waiting list? And I'm fully booked and busy all day, and I'm back-to-back diary. And we then don't actually take the time to work on our business. We're always in our business. And what we really want, I don't know about you, but I want to get to a position where I'm not even in my business anymore. That this is a where I can step away from my business. And I work with some amazing women in business where, they've got several businesses and there's other people running their business. They're not even in that business anymore. And I think that's one of the ultimate places I'd love to get to. That's where I see myself in 5 years' time, where, yes, I'm like the puppeteer at the top, like pulling the strings, but it's not me doing the day-to-day work. It's not me doing the day-to-day stuff. And I'm looking forward to that. That'd be nice. And that's what I hear a lot of people talk about their exit strategy. I say, what are you going to do when you're 60? You're going to be doing lives and consultations until God knows what time, when you're in your 60s and 70s. And a lot of people say that are in business, I love what I do. I can't see myself stopping. But when I speak to women who are actually in their 60s and they thought the same thing, so I work with lots of different ages of clients, they still want to work, but they want to choose when they work. They want to work 1 day a week, not 7 days a week, and they don't want to be creating new marketing strategies and funnels and diary management and staff, and they don't want to be doing any of that. They just want to do the things that they want to be doing and nothing else. So we have to put the planning and the financial planning in our foresight very clearly now, and not have it as something that is, I'll deal with that later. Which is why I run the programs that I do and deliver the education that I do, so that as an independent financial advisor, I'm a regulated financial advisor. I do give financial advice, and rather than saying, well, I can't help you because you're not ready, I'm sort of going, right, these are the tools to help you get ready, to manage and start multiplying your money, so that you can be in a position to come to somebody like me as an IFA and actually then have that next level of advice. Because really a value of a financial advisor is around tax, and then with more money becomes more, you have to become more tax efficient. More money, more problems, basically, and you have to then become more efficient, and it gets more technical. And that's really what you're paying for with a financial advisor, as well as them managing portfolios and diversification and that kind of stuff. But what it really comes back down to is that mindset piece around what you're charging, because how you bring in the revenue into the business, the models, which is what you talk about so much, the model of your business is the most crucial part, because that is almost like a catalyst to then be able to allow you to get to where you want to that much quicker, and hopefully more effectively with less hard work. Because really that's another mindset piece that we're taught, that you have to work really, really, really hard to get great, fantastic results. And that it's not that you don't have to put work in, you do have to put work in, but you don't necessarily have to break yourself in burnout, which is what you talk about so much in the process.
I think that's it, isn't it? There's so much talk around, oh, you've made it if you become fully booked. Well, for me, that was the opposite, because that was the catalyst for me having to shift my business model. Because when I became fully booked so quickly, I couldn't help any more people.
No.
And I realized that I was heading towards that burnout. And it was also having that huge impact on my income, because I couldn't earn any more money. So it is looking at that business model. It's looking at ways that you can make that money without making yourself work harder. And then when you've got that money and you've got those different revenue streams coming in, then you can kind of really manage the efficiency side of things. And then obviously what you talk about, kind of multiplying it, getting the money to work harder for itself, not you working harder for that money.
Exactly. Yeah, precisely that. And so it does come back to what you're charging. And there was something really interesting. I was on with a really lovely accountant yesterday called Joanna Bell, and she's incredible. She's sort of bought several different accountancy firms, and she's not even like 34 or something now, and she runs several accountancy firms. And what I talk about, my pet hate with normal accountants, and this is no offense to anybody, and I said this to Joanna at the time, so she didn't take offense, so I hope nobody else will. But it's almost like everything's done retrospectively with accounting and bookkeeping, and we're not looking at the business. There's a lady called Nicola Hurren, and she describes it even better, where we're always looking in the rear view mirror rather than looking at the road ahead. And I love that analogy. And what Joanna was talking about is how we're taught to spend money in our business. So for example, let's just say you spend £100 on a calculator or something, and it's like, well, that's okay because that's tax efficient because I've spent £100. And what Joanna's point is, and I talk about being my pet hate, because we're taught to spend money in our business, not to multiply it, not to do something else with it. We're just taught how to spend it, not manage it or multiply it. And what she talked about is with that £100 that you've spent, you're only actually saving £19 corporation tax. You've saved £19, but you spent the rest on a calculator that you might not even need. And where my second point comes into this is, therefore, how is that spending of, say, 80 odd quid is investing back in your business? And we do that in many ways, where we're buying things, spending money that's not actually investing back in our business or ourselves, which is hard to actually work out the returns on when you're doing personal development. It's harder. But if, for example, if you're creating, I've got a planner, as you know, I've got a planner, and it's cost me about £2.5 for me to produce this planner, and that's an expense, right? So using that £100 example, that's a bigger example of a spend. But I know how many planners I need to sell before it breaks even, and therefore when that money that I've spent becomes an investment that actually is investing back in my business. And that planner is a key piece of where I'm starting to help people, and they can start to self-help themselves when it comes to their financial education and money management, because it's a physical planner they can help do themselves at home. So it's a real key tool, and it's also a great investment back in my business, because I know the break-even point once I've sold so many planners that then I'm actually making a profit. But what we tend to do is that we spend on something that we actually don't know what the return of profit is or what the margin is. And it might be a new website just for the sake of having a new website, for example. That return of investment is not necessarily, you maybe you've only made 5 sales from your website, and most of your business comes through networking or social media or email marketing. Well, why have you just spent £3,000 on a new website then? Because it's actually not going to achieve you any more than your current website's doing. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah, totally agree with this. Especially I see this with new business owners, that they think they need to have, or spend a lot of money on, a spanky website or brand new logo or the branding side of things. And yes, that's part of a marketing strategy. It's not the marketing strategy. And when you're starting out, there's a whole load of other things that I would recommend you doing before spending a whole load of money on that side of things.
Well, it's a shiny object, isn't it? When we do this throughout our career and our journey, but I think it's the most obvious thing is to have a business card and having like this shop window feel, and you can put your stall out and go, and that's what a website feels like. It's much more easier to stand behind that than have to stand in front of it. And especially if you're the one that's having to market and sell, you don't want to be the salesperson selling and pitching. You want to be the one that sort of it's done for you in other ways. So I get the appeal to do that psychologically. I get that's easier to do it that way, but that's not reality. And by not understanding your client and being the salesperson at the forefront, you don't have to be, you can sell from your heart, you don't have to sell from a yucky place. That you're then getting to know the language that clients are speaking, you're getting to understand what it is they're talking about, that then when you do get round to having lots of healthy profits in your business, and you do put that time and effort into your branding and your marketing, that you actually end up having something that's a longer term asset. And that is an asset that's another term of an asset, because it's giving you a return. An asset is only something that ever gives you a return of some description, and it's covering its costs. So if you're running a business that you're deemed as you're seeing it as an asset and you're reinvesting back in your business, but it's actually not producing enough revenue to cover its costs, then that's not an asset. That's just a massive, expensive hobby. And equally, if you're then not paying yourself enough, even as an hourly rate, as a minimum wage, then again, that's a very expensive hobby. And you haven't got an issue with cash flow. You haven't got an issue with profits. You've got a massive business model that's just not working. And that can come back to the mindset around how you charge. So it's a pivotal, all of it is pivotal in terms of your profit margins are relating to what you price yourself at. And that's a big, I mean, I'm sure you've charged differently over the years, right? You sort of started at a lower price point and then you started to see your value, and eventually you felt more confident to charge more.
Definitely. And I think as you invest in yourself, everyone's done qualifications, they've invested in their own personal development, and we're all learning, aren't we? And that learning and knowledge all goes into helping people in the ways that we want to more. I want to delve into your planner a little bit more, and because that is a great foundational place. I think that if people have or are thinking, okay, this is resonating with me, but I'm not really sure how to start thinking about this. I mean, that's one of the reasons that you created the planner, wasn't it? That people could get that awareness, could get a bit of clarity on the money in, money out sort of thing. So yeah, tell us a little bit more about that.
Well, I have it with me. So that'll probably be the first place to start, because yes, I designed it in a sense that there was 5, let me just remind myself, 4 or 5 sections. Let me just bring it up. 6 sections actually. So I'll show you, because we're recording, but you can see them here. But those that are listening, obviously, sorry, you can't see this. So the first section is reflections of your previous year. So what we're trying to do is, you can pick this planner up at any point. You'd be in September, or you could be in January, whatever. We're at the moment, as we're recording this, just about to start the new tax year. So that's completely intentional on my part, where you can look at your business from a tax year perspective. Even though, however, your business year might be slightly different, you could do this on a tax year, because that's what the inland revenue usually go by when it comes to your tax allowances, regardless of your tax year. And it doesn't matter if your business tax year runs separately, that's fine. Those that are sole traders would be doing on a tax year. So it's looking at the previous reflection on the previous year, because when we talk about goals, like financial goals, it's okay, well, you sort of say, okay, well, I want to earn this much money, or, being that aligned piece. We have to look at the reality and reflect back in the rearview mirror and go, okay, what has happened? We still have to do that piece, and we have to do it there and then, not like another 8 months later when you're due to pay your tax bill. You're doing it at the time it's just happened. Because that's the other thing, a lot of people, it was mentioning earlier on, you sort of end up we're now at the end of tax year and they won't submit there until like the last day, whereas we want to be doing it on the first day and going, right, what's day one look like? I've done the previous year, what's day one look like? So you're looking at the reflection of the previous year, and mainly what we do in here is we look at your top 10 expenses, we look at possible ways of reducing those. It's more of a planner in it, like a reflection journal kind of thing. It semi like a bit of a workbook. There's a couple of videos where I do deliver some training on it, because for some people just the terminology might be a bit, or don't understand kind of thing. And our accountants don't always give us the opportunity to feel that we can ask some questions around this stuff, right? Because we sort of feel like, well, I don't want to ask a silly question. So it gets you to reflect on your previous turnover, your previous expenses, your previous income, where your savings are now, what savings you're made in the year, the total investments that you've done, which might be zero, and the sort of the total amount of investments have made in the year. And then it gets you to break that down into percentages, so you can get a bit of a reflection in terms of where's it all gone, what's all happened with it all. And then you can start to look at the year ahead. So you start to look at what you want to see in the next 12 months. What does that picture look like? What do you want to earn? And I talk about a magic number in there as well, which I won't go into now, but it's about, again, that aligned piece, that your goals and your finances are aligned to what you want to achieve in life. It gets you to look at what your net worth is, so what your net worth is now, and really what you're trying to do is you're sort of putting a mark, like a mark in the ground, if you like. You're putting a stake in the ground, going, this is where I'm at. And that psychologically is a big step for some people, just writing it down and acknowledging it.
Yeah.
But what the journey tries to take you through is it goes into a weekly and monthly review process, so that when you get to the end of the year, you do summarize the whole year. And what I hope for people to achieve is they can look back and go, oh, I've progressed, because you were very clear on the goals and the intentions. Financially speaking, you've increased your net worth, you've increased your profit, you've increased your investment goals, your savings goals, or cleared debt, etc. So it gives people the opportunity to sort of self-manage a little bit more, because even when they go on programs or they go on memberships, or if they go in do one-to-one, like, no one's sitting there day by day doing it for you. So this felt like a really nice place to enable people to start to do these things more for themselves a little bit. And for some people that are really good at this stuff already, it just gave you one place. Because for me, I've got diaries and journals and planners and notebooks all over the place, but none of them, there was business planners, there was to-do list planners, there was all kinds of stuff, but I could never find one that was actually focused around what I wanted my goals to achieve and my finances. They were all very like healthy based or very business based, and that actually none of it felt like it really truly aligned properly. So that's where I started the planner, because I thought, well, what would I want it to look like? What would I want to have in it?
It's amazing, and we'll make sure the links go into the show notes as well, because I think it's a great space for people to get that clarity. You know, if you are starting to think around, you know, growing or scaling your business, but you're not really sure what that looks like, and, you know, picking a number out of the air, that's not going to help you get there. So it really is about having that clarity on what actually is happening right now, or previously, as you said, doing that reflection piece, to really then be able to start, you know, multiplying. And that's where it gets exciting. That's what helps build that sustainable business. Thank you so much for joining me today. I've loved chatting to you and really getting more of an understanding, I think, or sharing that with other people that are listening or watching if you're on YouTube. So yeah, it's been great to have you. Is there one piece of advice that you'd leave our listeners with, of really creating those healthy foundations within our business?
I mean, there's mindset is a crucial part. So there's something there today that you think, oh yeah, I'm really sticky there, that feels a bit icky, then reach out to a business buddy, somebody that you get on with, somebody that you know, and go and talk to them about it. Don't park it and leave it. Go and actually physically speak and say, look, can I have a chat with you? Can we talk through this? What do you find? What's your experience? Go into Facebook groups where you feel comfortable, where you feel able to, and ask other people's experiences. And then get a notebook. It's like just a piece of paper, and just spend the next week or so writing about it. Just see what comes up for you. Start to bring it from part of your back of your subconscious that you're not really thinking about it, and start to make it more at the forefront. Because once you start to overcome these issues, whether it's on what you're charging, how you're paying for things, how you're spending, where your goals and your vision are, any of those sort of subjects, if you start to bring those at the forefront and be much clearer on them, then you're more conscious, and then you can make more conscious and better informed decisions, and opportunities will present themselves, and you might go for it because you feel more prepared and more able to say yes to certain things that maybe before you felt that you couldn't. So that would be my first tip, and that could be in any conscious of whatever stage you're at, whether you're at the make, manage or multiply phase. Now, somebody said to me the other day is that they've got a very big successful business, and they didn't really feel that they could start considering multiplying until they got to a certain point. And I'm finding that for certain people that I know are ready for my higher level programs, but they think they're not ready. And my top tip really is that we shouldn't be waiting until we're at £1 million this, or a turnover of 6 figures, before we start doing some simple things like putting a small amount into a pension, or putting a small amount into an investment, or starting to build some emergency funds. We need to be thinking about those things as early on as possible. And even if it's a small amount, £10, £20, £30, it hasn't got to be a lot. It could be what you spend in Costa once a month, or what you spend on Amazon once a month, which for some people would be a lot. So we could just make small baby steps. So my encouragement is that don't think it's something to put off because it's not for you or you're not ready yet. Just start some small steps and make some decisions today.
I love that. That's a great place to end. Thank you. I hope you've enjoyed listening to the Healthy Business Podcast. And Rebecca Robertson, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the Healthy Business Podcast. You can get a copy of my best-selling book, Healthy You, Wealthy Business, over on my website, sarahcookcoaching.com/book. In there, you'll find practical advice, useful tools, and real actionable steps to help you be your best self and build a wildly successful business with ease so that you can create a limitless life in the way that you choose.